What is the most common way to configure static files and debug in production for Django? When developing a Django application in debug mode, I serve static files using the following code. I am using nginx as a front end to server my static files in production mode using the following nginx config. Which seems suboptimal because I have to create a M folder in the media directory. I am wondering what everyone else's Django/nginx config files look like. Specifically, can you please cut and paste sections of nginx.conf.py, settings.debug equals true? Thanks.
Using Django 1.3 Django.contrib.static files will take care of serving everything for you during development. You don't need to do anything particular in the erls.py. I wrote a little guide for myself after the Django 1.3 update that covers the settings to use. Refer to the docs for details. This URL. I use nginx and USG for serving Django apps in production. I use runserver for development. I symlink my /static and /media folders from my Django project into .com/html for nginx defined. You could also use the collect static command instead of symlinking. If it can't find a static file, it falls back to USG, which is running the Django app. Instead of USG, you could use fastCGI, or proxy_pass, or whatever you want. I prefer USG because it has an incredible number of features and great performance. I run USG as a daemon with USG emperor/srv/.ini. This is a fairly new option. It tells USG to scan a given path for configuration files. When the emperor USG daemon finds a configuration file, it launches a new instance of USG using the configuration found. If you change your configuration, the emperor USG daemon will notice and restart your app for you. You can also touch the config file to reload like with mod_USG, and it's really easy to set up new apps once you have everything configured initially. The path conventions I follow are This is my nginx.conference. My USG ini file. You can also use xml/yaml/ etc. You should also check out Gunicorn. It has really nice Django integration and good performance.
I'm putting this here in case someone wants an example of how to do this for Apache and WSGI. The question title is worded such that it's not just covering nginx. Apache/WSGI daemon. In my deployment, I decided to keep the database connection info out of the settings.py file. Instead, I have a path/etc/Django which contains the files with the database configuration. This is covered in some detail in an answer to another question. However, as a side effect, I can check for the presence of these files and the project being in a certain path to determine if this is running as a deployment, and in settings.py I define the settings as _dev, is_beta, and is_prod as true or false. Finding the project's directory from settings.py is just anything that needs a path into the project uses base_dir. So in erls.py, I have at the end. I also have another URL in there that I use for UI testing and don't want on beta or production. This covers the development server case. For production, I just have to set the Apache configuration up to serve the static stuff. This is an internet application with low to medium load, so I don't have a lightweight web server like Light to serve the static stuff, contrary to the Django docs recommendation. Since I'm using Fedora Core, I add a Django.conference file in /etc/httpd/conference.d that reads similar to. The key here is to put your alias lines before your script alias line. Also make sure that there's no way for the user to download your code. I did that by putting the static stuff in a static directory that is not in my Django project. That's why base_dir gives the directory containing the Django project directory. You can omit the socket prefix line. I have it because the admin wants the sockets in a non-default location. My WSGI file is at .wsgi, ie/django.wsgi in the Mercurial repository, and contains something like The nice thing about WSGI daemons is that you just have to touch Django.wsgi to restart your Django WSGI daemon. You don't need to reload or restart the Apache server. This makes the admin happy. Finally, since my /var/www/Django project is just a Mercurial repo, I have the following in .he/hgrc. This clears Python bytecode, updates the working copy, fixes up all the perms, and restarts the daemon whenever a developer pushes into deployment, so anyone in the Django project group can push into it and not just the last one who added a file. Needless to say, be careful who you put in the Django project group. ZK sets static_URL, static_root, static files_dirs, static files_finders and uses django.contrib.staticfiles and django.core.context_processors.static in his settings. I don't have those since my code dates back to Django 1.1 and don't use static_root. Hope this helps.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.